Hi, friends. So we have officially made it to the last unit you will be taught before we start reviewing for our final exam. So congratulations, this is it. This is the last thing you'll be taught, and then we'll start reviewing everything we've learned this school year. So we begin with learning how to simplify fractions in lesson one, part one. And the main reason is because the full lesson of lesson one, so part two, you will learn how to subtract fractions with like denominators. But just like I've said before, on all quizzes and exams, your final answer has to be in the simplified form, the most reduced form. So in part two of this lesson, after you subtract your fractions, you're going to be expected to simplify that fraction, the answer you got. So part one of this lesson is teaching you how to simplify. One of the most common rules with simplifying fractions is if both the numerator, the top, and the denominator are even, then you know it can be reduced. So if they're both even, it is not in simplified form, and you need to divide out the number 2. Um, so we have learned about greatest common factor, and if you can figure out what the greatest common factor is, that usually is the easiest to divide. Just divide maybe once or twice, and be over and done with, and you have the most simplified form. But most students prefer not to go through all of that and trying to figure out what is that the biggest number you can divide out, especially if it's an even number. They just keep dividing by twos until they get it into the most simplified form. So that's the example I gave you. It's probably the easiest way to do it if you're a student, because dividing by 2 is really easy. So I don't expect you to have to figure out what's the biggest number that goes into both 24 and 108. You don't have to know that. Um, you can utilize the method of dividing by 2 until you get into the smallest form. Okay, so again, simplifying a fraction simply means you keep dividing a common number that goes into both the numerator and the denominator until you get it into the smallest form possible. Okay, there's many different ways to doing this. So for instance, if it was like a 5 over 15, obviously they both end in 5, so you know that's not in most simplified form. You're going to have to pull out a 5 out of both of them to get them in simplified form. So again, you're just reducing your fraction until you get it into most simplified form. So I see a 24 and a 108. Again, since they're both even numbers, so you're really going to rely on those divisibility rules you learned way back when. Okay, so they're both even numbers, so I know they're both divisible by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2. 2 goes into 24 12 times. 2 goes into 108 54 times. Again, I'm left with 2 even numbers, so that is not in most simplified form. So I need to divide again by 2. So I'm going to divide 12 by 2, which is 6, and 54 by 2, which is 27. So again, I'm relying on my divisibility rules to figure out, is that in most simplified form? And again, the answer is no. How do I know that? Because 7 plus 2 is 9, and 9 is divided by 3. So I know 3 goes into 27, and I know 3 goes into 6. So I'm going to divide by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 27 divided by 3 is 9. And at this point, I know I am in the most reduced form because 2 is a prime number, which means I can't do anything else with it. Okay. And I know 2 doesn't evenly go into 9 because 9 is an odd number. Okay. So 2/9 is the most simplified form. So 24 over 108 is the same thing as saying 2/9. They are the same exact thing. If you pick up your calculator at this time, so if you want to check and pick up your calculator, okay, okay. So I'm going to do 24, and I'm going to divide it by 108, enter. All right. Now I'm going to take 2 divided by 9, enter. And as you can see, they're the same exact thing. It's just in a different form, okay? I reduced that fraction. I didn't change it. I didn't make it a different, a greater or smaller number. I just put it in a different form. That's what simplification means, okay? So if you simplified, like I said, so sorry. So if you had another fraction and uh, I could do like 15 over 25. I'm going to use those divisibility rules. And I know for sure I can simplify this because they both end in 5, which means they're both divisible by 5. So 5 goes into 15 3 times. 5 goes into 25 5 times. So again, 15 over 25 is the same thing as saying 3 over 5. It's just this is in the most simplified form, which again, on every exam, your final answer has to be in the most simplified form. So that's what this lesson's all about, just teaching you how to simplify and reminding you how to simplify. You use your divisibility rules that you were taught in a couple units back. So you just want to practice simplifying those fractions so that when you get into the later part of this lesson, you'll be successful in subtracting your fractions. So that's what we're going to move on to, subtracting our fractions. And then when you get your final answer after you subtract, you're going to be asked to simplify your final answer. Okay, I'll see you soon. Good luck. Have fun practicing.